He said, well, in Zimbabwe, we have the freedom of speech. We just don't have the promise of any freedom after your speech is finished. So this is an issue. How do you make a difference? How do you impact? Now, this particular man who is in government there, he is a righteous man. He's a holy man. He's a man of God. He's even an ordained pastor with one of the large churches in Harare. However, this particular man, he was so frustrated and he wanted to leave politics altogether because he felt that in his nation he could not make a difference. But we believe that righteous people can make a difference. But we have to make a difference in a righteous way. And so for several years, we've been having a conference in China called Africa Shall Rise. And this was more religious conference. And we would had the Bishop Elise Malumba from the Congo coming, and he would be lecturing on that. We had several ambassadors from Jamaica, and we had Miss Corti from the Ghanaian embassy, and we had ambassadors from different embassies come. Barbados and Jamaica, and there was another country I forgot was our keynote speaker, one of the ambassadors. And this year we're changing the theme a little bit to excellence in leadership and nation building. And we had a conversation when I was in Washington, D.C. a few months ago on Capitol Hill. But in this particular session, there was somebody who was saying, we need regime change. We need regime change. How can we effect regime change? And I was, as a minister, kind of felt like a fish out of water. I felt like I didn't belong in this high-level government meeting with government leaders from around the world. And I thought that I would just be an observer. And as I sat there observing, I could not keep my mouth shut. It's very difficult for me to keep my mouth shut. And I raised my hand and I said, excuse me, I was trying really hard as a younger person. I'm only 40. Everyone in there was, maybe definitely older, maybe in their 50s or 60s. And I said, as a young person and as someone who is not a regular around DC, I said, I just feel like I should keep my mouth shut, but I can't. Because you can't antagonize and lead at the same time. If you want to lead North Korea in a positive way, you cannot antagonize. And if you're talking about changing the regime, you are antagonistic. And any kind of conversation like this, I don't want to be affiliated with. And I think that we should not be having these kind of conversations. I said we have to respect the God-given sovereignty of the nation. And so this kind of changed the tone of the whole conversation. And then another man who was leading a very famous international peace foundation, he said, well, let's look at it this way. Let's talk about regime change, but not meaning changing of the regime. And it reminded me of Obama when he ran. Just to let you know, I'm not for the NPP or the NDC. I'm not for either party. I'm not for the Republicans and I'm not for the Democrats. Actually, I'm a Trump man, and I represented Donald Trump in the debates here in Beijing for the U.S. Chamber of Commerce and the U.S. Embassy. I am a Trump guy, and he is not too popular with Republicans or the Democrats because I believe in the outsider. And so it reminded me during, the times of Obama. And I liked Obama because I'm from Chicago and I'm a minority, I'm Latino, so I supported Obama in that way, but not on his political stances. And he promised a lot of change, and unfortunately, there was change, but it was not progressive change in a way towards a godlier nation. It was progress away from being a godlier nation. So when we talk about change, what does that really mean? Change could be positive, change could be negative. And when we just get up to talk about change, this should be, worrisome if we don't know the direction of that particular change. So when we first planned this conference, we had a theme that was called change, time for change. But we were told that would be sensitive in China because China would want to know, well, what kind of change are you trying to bring? So we wanted to actually theme it, excellence in leadership, So we can talk about that kind of change, a change towards a progressive way, a change towards having excellence in leadership. So when we're talking about in this particular meeting on Capitol Hill about change, and I changed the narrative, we began to talk about not change of the regime that's in power, but the regime that's in power helping them to change in a positive way. Well, how can you do that? So we began to strategize in this meeting how we can do that. Well, we can offer, continue. Well, there's aid being offered, but somebody mentioned we can offer some aids and some supports and different types of things. We can help them build infrastructures. And those are good things, and those things that are happening now. And those things are making a big difference. So there's change taking place, and you can't antagonize and change at the same time. So if you're going to slander the NPP or slander the NDC, or you're going to slander political parties and slander candidates and politicians and presidents, you can't help lead them in a positive way, because you cannot antagonize and lead at the same time. So if we're going to be people of influences, if we're going to be people like Daniel and Esther, we have to be able to establish respectful relationships, respectful dialogue, and we have to be able to lead in a positive way. And sometimes that requires building platforms and structures outside of the traditional methods and the traditional modes. Me and Honorable were speaking a bit about one of the strengths of Obama's administration as he rose to power in a Chicago grassroots. While I might not agree with their politics, I like the fact that they did a grassroots movement to impact their agenda. And we see Trump did the same thing. Trump, during his elections, also did a grassroots movement action. He found that demographic in America who are not working, who have lost their jobs, who have been disenfranchised, and he became their voice. We can make a difference not by antagonizing and not by being immoral in our ways, a higher standard of moral virtue, but we could lead by being excellent and excellent in spirit and by being honorable. So, of course, that became very difficult in the U.S. elections. We're switching mics, thank you. Because we had, in our situation, we had Hillary Clinton with her 33,000 deleted emails, and then we had Trump with his vulgar remarks about women and these type of things. So it was very hard for me at the embassy and during this debates to talk about the morality of either candidate. But what I was able to talk about was the trends and what people were tired of, what people were frustrated with, and how we could improve on those things. So as Christians, though, however, we want to make sure that we have a moral standard. And if we have a moral standard in society and we lead through influence, not antagonization, I believe that we can do great things in the nations of the earth. And there are always, throughout history, there's been great leaders, great people, and great Christian leaders like William Wilberforce, who have made a difference in their countries and in their society at a time when every hand was against them. So it's amazing how one righteous man can make a difference in an unrighteous system. And this is what we're talking about, excellence in leadership. And we told Boston Koo, we were in D.C. with him, and me and Senator Sam Brownback and some other guys from the prayer breakfast, and we met with him and we prayed with him, and we're supporting this man as a believer, as a brother, that he would make a difference for Jesus in the nation of Mongolia. So this is what we're after. We're after seeing the nations of the world come into the blessings of God, come into the fruitfulness of righteousness. You know, the earth is in the highest time of prosperity that the planet has ever seen. All the futurists and sociologists are saying in the coming years, we are about to see trillions of dollars of wealth created through new technologies. We are in the greatest time of wealth that the earth has ever seen. However, we're not seeing that money trickle down to the average person, because when a politician, in generally speaking, and not only in America, in developing nations, but even in the States, a lot of times when a politician gets into office, the mindset is now it's our time to eat. Now that I'm in office, it's time for me and my family members and my friends and my cohorts. Now it's our times to feast. It's our time to eat. We fought. Now it's time for us to get our spoil. And this is the wrong attitude of the leader. The truth is, and it's okay with the mic goes up because I'm still on good volume on the Facebook. The truth is, this is the entire world's time to eat. We are in the time of global prosperity and technology. And if we have righteous leadership to manage the earth's resources in a righteous way, it is time for every nation, every tribe, every tongue, every village is time to eat. So what do we need to do? We need to just begin to transition the way that we approach. We can't antagonize and lead at the same time, but we have to have excellence in leadership.